What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting video. You know, the PS2 era certainly was one for the ages. Probably the best time to be a gamer. There was a lot of different things going on. I think the PlayStation 2 really kind of was the epitome of what gaming was all about back then. I remember, like yesterday, getting my PlayStation 2 and just seeing things for the first time on that was just amazing. And even in this year, 2025 is such a fun time to think about owning a PlayStation 2. And even going beyond that, it's just a great era, and you can pick up most of the games incredibly cheap. I'm a collector, so I know I'm always going to get comments about how people will mod or do this or do that. I like to collect the physical games, and I still like to run it off the original hardware and things like that, off a CRT TV, the way it was really meant to be enjoyed, in my opinion, with a PS2 controller. But, don't let that deter you. Play the games how you like. I personally like to collect them, but I wanted to go over a list of some great games that are still fun to play in 2025. Let me know what you guys think, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I recently hit 8,000 subscribers on this channel, and that's amazing. Thank you all so much. Let's go ahead and get started. I know there's other ways to play it, but Metal Gear Solid 2 is absolutely one of the best games to still play on the PlayStation 2. You could even go for Metal Gear Solid 3 as well. I think that's a really good game as well, and I think I've put that in some other lists, but I can just remember finally getting to be able to play this game on my PS2, and just what a thrill that was, and the game holds up incredibly well. I think that at the time it was a little bit jarring to see that, Snake, spoiler alert, isn't the main character throughout the game. But I think you get over that rather quickly. I mean, Kojima, props to him for kind of pulling one over on all the fans and things like that. And I can understand there's a little bit of backlash. And yeah, the game itself can be a little bit hard to understand and follow at times. But overall, it's still just a classic game to kind of play through, and just such a fun game and a fun experience to play through. And, even though you're playing as kind of dual characters and things, I still find it to be just an amazing kind of storytelling and things like that. And Kojima's kind of the master of that, if you think about it. He's done a really good job with that throughout his career, and this game is no different. I mean, you get over the fact that you're not Snake very long, but you still get a good feel for the game and the exploration and things like that, and how it handles. It took me a little bit to get back used to how the controls were on the PS2, but once you do, you get it down. It's awesome, really good fun, and it's a game that I always suggest for collectors to get the Metal Gear games on every original platform possible. It's just such a fun experience. Next up is a game I'm not very good at, and I was surprised that it looks good though, and that's SoulCalibur 3. This is a really cool 3D weapons-based combat fighting game. Of course, this is by Namco. It's got a really kind of fantastical 16th century world feel to it. It kind of follows these warriors who are seeking a cursed sword, the Soul Edge, or the Holy SoulCalibur. The game has over like 25 playable characters, including a lot of returning characters from the previous SoulCalibur games. There's also various game modes that you can play through, which I think is always a bonus when it has multiple game modes. There's standard arcade, which is you battling through a series of fights. There's Tales of Souls, which is like the story-driven campaign with branching paths and character-specific narratives for each character. So there's a lot of gameplay value to be found in the game. Even today, there's Chronicles of the Sword, which is like a strategic RPG-like mode where players create a custom character, manage an army, and conquer a map with real-time battles, which I think that's a really cool option for this game as well, something you don't normally see in fighting games as well. There's also an extensive character creation there, where you can create unique fighters with a different moveset and things like that. So I think that's really cool, that the way that they've handled that. Overall, this is just such a fun game to play through, and highly recommended. Next up is Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Now, this game released in 2005. Castlevania has this rich history. It's got a lot of good games. It's got some stinkers in there as well. I think this was somewhere in between, but still a kind of a fun game to kind of play through. It's a 3D action-adventure game, of course, by Konami. This one's set in 1479, which is actually set a few years after Dracula's Curse. And I think that's really cool because you play as Hector, who was actually in Dracula's service, abandoned Dracula's service to actually live a peaceful life. And then, all hell kind of breaks loose and things like that. Gameplay, of course, the hack and slash combat with RPG elements that you probably know and love. It's got a really, really wide arsenal of weapons: swords, axe, spears, unique items like Gatling guns. Yeah, that's right, Gatling guns. It's got an innovative innocent devil system where Hector can summon and evolve demonic creatures. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And again, there's a lot of key modes to the main story where Hector battles the enemies and bosses to confront Isaac, and there's an unlockable mode featuring Trevor Belmont with his vampire killer whip. The game probably wasn't as well received as some other games. It's got some flawed pieces to it and things like that, but overall, I still find it to be kind of a fun game to kind of go through and play and enjoy, and I think you probably will too, especially if you're a fan of the Castlevania games in any way. Next up, fun game called Brothers in Arms, Earned in Blood. Of course, this released in 2005. If you're unfamiliar with it, a tactical first-person shooter developed by Gearbox Software and actually published by Ubisoft, which was a sequel to Brothers in Arms, Road to Hill 30. Whatever happened to this franchise? I don't know. We haven't seen it in a long time. Of course, set in World War II, the Normandy invasion, because we haven't seen that enough in video games. It follows newly promoted Sergeant Joe Hartstock, a paratrooper in the 101st Division, as he recounts his experiences in the Army. The gameplay itself is really kind of cool and unique as it centers on squad-based tactics using the 4 Fs: find, fix, flank, and finish. Players command 2 teams, and you can control them with the PS2 controllers, each team based on which one you want to move. Typically a fire team to suppress enemies, an assault team to kind of flank them, discouraging run and gun gameplay through limited aim accuracy, low health, and enemies using cover, which, yeah, you'll die pretty quickly in this game if you just go in there like it's Call of Duty or something. You have to use your team to the best advantage that you can, which, it shouldn't be that hard. It takes a little bit to get used to, but yeah, it still is pretty interesting the way that it kind of works. The PS2 version includes 12 single-player missions across urban and rural settings as well, with larger maps and some new maps as well. It's got some vehicles. The game retains a lot of the cinematics that the Branda Brothers actually, the show kind of has. It's got a lot of authentic missions from the U.S. Army records, photos, and maps. There could be a little bit of technical issues, including a little bit of blurriness. As you can see, it's not probably the best looking game ever. It's got like some frame rate issues and things like that. But overall, it's still a fun game to kind of experience and play through, and something a little bit different on PS2, so that's why it's here. Next up is, of course, a fan favorite, and probably one of the reasons why a lot of people really enjoyed the PlayStation 2 was Kingdom Hearts. This game came out way back in 2002. If you don't know what it's about, it's an action RPG, of course developed by Square Enix in collaboration with Disney. It actually blends Disney and Final Fantasy characters in a unique original story, and they pulled off really well. So you're playing as Sora, who is a teenage boy from Destiny Islands who wields a magic keyblade, and when his world is consumed by shadowy creatures called Heartless, Sora is separated from his friends, and he teams up with Disney characters like Goofy and Donald Duck, sent by King Mickey to find the Keyblade wielder. They travel across a lot of Disney-inspired worlds, and they battle the enemies and things like that, and discover a much larger plot at hand. Now, if you're wondering about the gameplay itself, it combines hack and slash combat with RPG elements, as Sora fights in real time using the Keyblade, and he has like magic, like fire and different things like that, and he can summon Simba or Genie, and he has Donald and Goofy as his AI-controlled allies, whose behavior they can customize their behavior a little bit and kind of make them more unique for your kind of experience and things like that. So yeah, they do a really good job with it. There's over 11 different worlds, and it really blends Disney with Final Fantasy style action, adventure, things like that. So yeah, absolutely one of the best games you can get on PS2. Fun time for all. I always try to do some games that I personally like, but I might not have seen a lot of coverage for in other videos. And Genji Dawn of the Samurai is one of those games. I haven't really heard anybody talk about it, but it's an action-adventure hack-and-slash game, and it was actually published by Sony themselves. It's a really cool setting, 12th century feudal Japan. And the game draws loosely from historic actual events and things like that. You primarily control Yatsutsin Minamoto, who's a young samurai, and if I butchered that name, apologies. Anyway, he's a samurai seeking to reclaim his clan's honor, and again, there's a lot of cool stuff in there. The gameplay itself, as you see, is a lot of fast-paced sword combat, blending combos, counters, and special moves and things like that. A standout feature is the Kamwai mechanic, which briefly kind of slows time, allowing a more precise cinematic strike to kill off your enemies. You can actually do this quite a lot throughout the game. It's a lot of fun. The story is actually delivered very expertly through cutscenes, historical drama with some supernatural elements as well. It's pretty interesting, kind of linear or whatever, middle of the road in terms of what most people would think about in today's terms of a good game or a classic game or anything like that. But it's one that I find still fun to kind of go through and play on the PlayStation 2 even nowadays. So yeah, if you come across this game, give it a try. It's a lot of fun and one that I highly recommend. You can't do a PS2 list without adding Gran Turismo 4. This game came out in 2005. If you know anything about Gran Turismo games, they're full-on racing simulation games. Polyphony Digital does them. They still do these games to this day. Really good games. Of course, published by Sony because Sony owns them. The Gran Turismo series is just one of the best all-time racing series that you can actually find. It's set in a world of automotive excellence. There's no narrative focus, and instead is just basically pursuit of driving mastery. You take on the role of an aspiring racer. The gameplay actually emphasizes realistic driving physics, with over 700 meticulously detailed cars from manufacturers. You probably understand them, like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Nissan, everything. Basically any car you could want is in this game. There's classics to modern supercars. You compete on more than 50 tracks, including real-world tracks. Nuremberg, of course. There's dynamic weather and time of day effects in some races. The core Gran Turismo mode involves earning licenses through driving tests as well. Visually stunning for a PS2 game. It actually kind of pushes the limits of what details can be on the game as well. One of the higher reviewed games on the PS2 as well. So yeah, just a fun game to kind of explore and have a good time with. If you're looking for a good racing game, I don't think it gets much better than Gran Turismo 4 on the PlayStation 2. Lastly on this is a familiar favorite, of course, God of War 2. Now, this released in 2007, action-adventure hack-and-slash game developed by Sony Santa Monica and, of course, owned by Sony Computer Entertainment as publishers. A sequel to the 2005 original. This game is actually set in Greece, and it follows Kratos, the Spartan warrior, a newly crowned God of War after slaying Ares. Betrayed by Zeus, stripped of his powers and cast into the underworld, Kratos is after revenge, once again rescued by the Titan Gaia, and he embarks on a quest to find the Sisters of Fate, who control time and destiny, to undo Zeus's treachery. So the gameplay itself blends really fun melee combat. There's platforming, puzzles, and Kratos, of course, wields the Blades of Athena, chain swords for fast combo heavy attacks. If you've kind of seen it in the past, that's pretty much what it is. It's a linear but very fun and epic. You could probably beat it in about 10 to 12 hours. Visually, God of War 2 pushes the PS2 to its limits. It has really stunning details with the environments, detailed character models, and some awesome cinematic cutscenes paired with a really good soundtrack. And the story really kind of deepens when Kratos was kind of a badass and he had this rage, and he was this rage-inducing character while kind of introducing and following along with Greek mythology. So yeah, one of the best, most gripping narrative-based games on the PS2. God of War 2 is a must-have. The first one as well, but yeah, overall, I know it's a little bit cliche to have the game on there, but how could I do a list and not put this game on here? There you have it, a list of 8 solid PS2 games that are fun to play even in 2025. These are games actually that I am currently kind of playing around with, and it really doesn't matter what type of games you're into because the PS2 has a library that is built for pretty much everyone. There's always going to be something in there for everyone that someone's going to enjoy, even if you don't. So keep that in mind when you're collecting your games. I don't think any of these games are tremendously expensive. So yeah, the PS2 right now is the perfect time to collect for that console. And if you guys have an idea or some games that you would have loved to see me cover, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.